Given an existing house that's just building out its attic, I guess I need guidance on a situation like that, whether planning board consultants come in or not on that.
They do, and we have required homeowners that have just finished an attic or something like that, that puts them over the 6,000, to do what they would have needed to do had they gone to site plan review in the first place. So we have actually required them to add more landscaping sometimes, or to change the lighting, or whatever the case may be. So
one way we've handled it in the past is, instead of having a site walk for all the planning board members, we arrange a site walk with one designated planning board member, take a look at the situation, and then the planner and the member who were at the site walk make recommendations to us.
Okay.
And we usually follow those.
And that often involves a consultant.
that's correct.
Yeah, it often does. You're right. That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of history will help you understand this. We had a previous building inspector who advised people to build out to 5,995 square feet, and then have empty raw space that could then be built separately. And, you know, in order to avoid site plan review.
Well, that's still continuing.
And the council, that should not still be continuing.
It is
I
continuing.
mean, it may be continuing that there are people left over from that.
No.
period. There's new people doing this?
Yes.
Well, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, town council has weighed in on it that these people need to be, come under site plan review if they do that.
I had a meeting with Donna Vanderkluck and John Field before Donna left on vacation about a little more than a week ago, and this was one of the concerns I brought up. And I haven't prepared a memo yet, but there's a memo coming your way regarding this, because I can think of at least a half a dozen right now.
It's reverted back to the previous experience.
What was their take on this?
Well,
Or how did they respond?
Donna voiced concern because she thought it was straightened out, and now she's hearing otherwise. And John indicated that he was interpreting it in a similar manner as the former building inspector, Rob Mora.
Well, but we have a memo from someplace from the
right. I ended up spending
council, so.
last weekend reviewing the files on this,
Yeah.
and Ann had a file about that thick of the issues since 2006,
Yeah.
and so it's continuing.
But we do have a memo from
Right.
the
Right.
town council.
Right. Right.
That this
And-
should not continue,
right.
and that
The-
should go
well,
to John Fields. as
Well, no,
as Donna.
he purports to regret it all. So the other issue I have is that it's also whether outbuildings are being used as part of the square footage. And in looking at the history of this, you know, sheds and, you know, other buildings outside the garage, whether it's detached or attached, and the building are to be considered. There seems to be some disagreement on that. So I think the discussion will continue when Donna comes back.
That is a change from the previous two building inspectors.
Right. So.
The previous two building inspectors included outbuildings in the RGFA calculations.
Yeah. And basically John is taking the approach that it's not a residential building because it's not heated, it's not insulated, it's even if it's a shed with a lawnmower in it, if it's a 2,200 square foot shed, it shouldn't be counted because it's not really habitable.
Don't the bylaws specify?
Well, now we're going to get back into Do you remember the good old days when we were closing loopholes every town meeting?
Well, I've been tasked by Donna and John to come up with how to close some further loopholes, which John perceives to be loopholes. So.
I think that, isn't this the job for town council to straighten out the, make sure that everyone's on the same page on this?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to talk about it in connection with the possibility of proposing amendments at fall town meeting.
Well, that would be one idea, but we've already been through a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Town council's ruled on it, and if that means that there's a meeting with town council and Donna and John Fields and yourself to clarify so that we're all on the same page, that would be, I think, the quickest. And that's something that probably can happen as soon as everyone's back from vacation. And that's what I would suggest.
Well, it's a place to start. We'll see if we can reach an agreement. I think
We have to go with the guidance of town council, and if town council says we don't have that isn't nice and tight and organized, and that there is, and then we're talking about making a change, or an improvement.
Yeah.
So, but let's do that one as soon as possible so that we know what we're getting into.
Right.
Can I just point something out that I discovered online, this brochure that's online, and I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Zoning bylaw information, and it
Yeah.
talks about calculating RGFA, and it says that included in the calculation are finished or unfinished area above garages, finished or unfinished half-story above second floor, and finished attics. And then it says the exemption from RGFA is unfinished attics when located above the uppermost story of the building, but it's only considered, a half a story is only considered an attic when it's built in pitched roof construction, and if dormers or similar features are built through the roof, the area shall not be considered an attic and therefore included. So it's when they build these dormers in advance and it's not counted, it's clearly going against the
That's the
rules.
brochure.
Well, I assume it must be in the zoning as well.
I don't know where it came
What
from.
brochure is
Really?
this?
Yeah, I don't.
It's
I've
it's
read
this
it.
brochure that's online.
Where?
Town of Weston. Under.
This was created, I believe, by Rob Mora and Ann Swain to kind of clarify it.
Yeah. Do you know if it's currently being followed in every respect?
Sounds like it's
Doesn't
on.
sound like it,
Well, okay.
but it doesn't sound like it's codified either, maybe, in the zoning bylaw.
I think we probably should
Yeah.
talk about 129 Cherrybrook and get back to this.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we're not going to reach a resolution. I think what you've done is you've just told us that there's something that we have to take into consideration.
Right.
David has suggested the beginning of a process.
Right,
I think it's
right.
the very beginning of a process. I don't think it's going to be the
Right.
be all and end all.
So
Because
this-
we just looked at a couple of loopholes just talking in the last 10 minutes that are going to require some kind of modification. The shed versus no shed issue, for example, you're not going to find that in the zoning bylaw. So one way to close that loophole is to say sheds are included in the RGFA calculation, the end, as opposed to leaving it up to the whim of whatever the last building inspector wants to do. So those kinds of things need to shake out, and we need to see what we should and shouldn't have to grapple with.
Okay. So, before we start this hearing, I will tell you that based on my limited experience, Mr. Silverman came in to talk with me. He had X amount of square feet. It was under the 6,000 square feet.
What was it? What was it? I'm sorry.